Hey everyone, welcome to part 4 of my top 10 series on how to collect, or specifically what to collect. I get a lot of questions from people asking me, what should I collect? And my ultimate answer is, you should collect what you like. Don't let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't collect. As far as what it's worth, that's a different story, but you should most certainly collect what you like, okay? So what do you like? Well, the only way to find out what you like is to see a bunch of different things. And once you see different items, then you can get a much better feel for what attracts your eye, whether it be the note itself, whether it be the story behind the note, whether it be the value of the note, whether it be the changing value of the note. There are all kinds of different reasons to collect different items. And this is just yet another video showing you different ways to break them down. All right, so for my 4th video in the series, we're going to go through the last 10. These are in no particular order. Once again, none of these on the list were in any particular order. It's quite literally the order I wrote them down. I may have done a little bit of shifting just so I can include different notes in different lists. But other than that, yeah, these are just ideas for you guys. All right, first this week, we are going to go with graded notes. Now, when you get a graded note, you know a few things. First and foremost, you know it's real, okay? If you don't know a whole lot about notes, getting notes that are graded will put your mind at ease because you know the notes that you are getting have been authenticated. Secondly, a professional grader has also given their opinion on the condition of the note. Now, condition is one of the more important things when it comes to price. And since the way you acquire notes is by paying for them, it would be kind of important to understand the condition and how that translates to value. So once again, if you collect graded notes, all the hard work's been done. Now it's just a matter of negotiating price. You get to buy with confidence, knowing that you're getting the real thing and that you're getting a proper grade. That is the first one this week. Number 2, we're going to go with fantasy notes. Okay? With fantasy notes, these are notes that didn't necessarily exist. There was talk about a $3 bill in 1862, and they even put certain things on the regular notes that implied a $3 bill was coming, but they never did it. This is what it would have looked like. Here's a fantasy note featuring Santa Claus on the note. Here's this is the $10 educational note, which never made it to production. And here is a culmination of numerous obsolete notes, one of which actually had an engraving of Santa Claus on it. Just cool stuff like that. So fantasy notes never existed in reality as far as spendable money, but that doesn't make the imagery on them any less cool. So that's number 2 this week. Number 3, we're going to go with replicas. Now, collecting currency can be expensive. And because of the expense involved, sometimes instead of forking out $100,000, it's much better to just get the replica, just to show what the note looked like. A lot of replicas can be gotten fairly cheap. I bought a bunch of them off of eBay just so I could do some more top 10 lists without actually having to go out and spend $25,000 on any given note. Now, the replicas that I have, you have to keep in mind that in order for them to be a replica, it would be illegal for them to print front and back. So the vast majority of my replicas are one-sided, making them legal to print. If they were to do two-sided replicas, they'd have to change the size. So by keeping the size the same and just making them one-sided, that allows them to be replicated and not counterfeited. This here is a note from Germany, if I recall, and it is also just a replica note, but pretty cool anyway. So that is number 3 this week. Number 4. Number 4, I've got goldbacks. Now, some of you have heard of goldbacks. Goldbacks are paper money. Well, I shouldn't say that they're paper money, but they are flexible currency that would fit in your wallet that are They're designed to be not indestructible, but to last much longer than the current stuff that we have. And they also have an intrinsic value because they are made with gold. If you look, the denominations are how many parts per thousand is gold. So this is 1/1000th of an ounce of gold. So it's a 1. This is 1/200th, which is 5 1/1000ths of an ounce of gold. This is 10 1/1000ths or 1 100th of an ounce of gold. So the entire thing is based on an ounce of gold. If you have 1,000 goldbacks, that would equal 1 ounce of gold. That's the premise. Now, not only do they equal 1 ounce of gold, they are actually made with gold. Now, the amount of gold in here corresponds to those numbers, 1/1000th of an ounce, 1/200th of an ounce, all the way to 1/20th of an ounce for the 50. But once again, this entire note is not completely gold, but 1/20th of an ounce of it is. So it actually has its own intrinsic value as well as its spendable value. Now, there are very few places that will actually take these. And these are from Utah, which is the first place to develop the goldbacks. I believe Denver and New Hampshire have also come out with goldbacks, or Colorado, I should say. Colorado and New Hampshire, if I remember right. Nevada, I think, also came out with theirs, but these are the first ones. So yeah, you could put together a set of goldbacks. All right, that's number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5, we're going to go with specimen notes. Now, specimen notes, these were basically test notes, specimen notes showing what could be done, what notes will look like when the finished product is developed, different ways to test printing presses, different ways to see how ink overlaps one another like this. So these were specimens. They weren't used to be in circulation. Most of these were either to show people how things would work or to show banks what to expect to see once they come in. Specimen notes can get expensive depending on what notes you're talking about. It's based on the quantity that were printed, the legality of the print, how long ago they were printed, and of course the subject matter. This 10-pound specimen note, probably not a whole lot of value there. There's probably not a lot of people looking for a 10-pound note from the National Westminster Bank Limited. But the Giori Press test note from the 1970s that was illegal for many, many years, yeah, that's going to have a much higher demand. Anyway, those are specimen notes, just a whole nother world to dive into. All right, so that's number 5. Number 6. Forgot that's a specimen as well. That was the specimen for the Spinner note, and Spinner actually signed that note, so that was pretty cool too. All right, number 6, we're going with notes from the top 100. Okay, there is a book out that ranks the top 100 currency notes of all time, and some people try to put that list together. It's ridiculously hard because some of the notes are unique. If there's only one note, that means only one person could possibly do it. Unfortunately, there are also notes that aren't obtainable because they're just not out in the public anymore. The price on some of the notes makes it extremely cost prohibitive. The average person would be lucky to get 5 or 10 of these. A hardcore collector probably could get 25 to 30. That's where I'm at. I'm pretty close to 30 of these, if I recall. The top 100, they are just the notes that you would expect to see. They've got incredible stories, incredible beauty on the notes, just a fascinating thing. I've got a whole playlist of the top 100. I think it took 10 videos because I did them 10 at a time. But yeah, generally speaking, you're going to recognize almost all the notes that are on there, or at least heard of them. I think the top note is the Grand Watermelon, which is a $1,000 note, where the back of the note looks, the zeros and 1,000 look like watermelons just because of the way they printed it. And yeah, that's a $3-4 million note, so probably not going to be adding that to my collection. But there are notes that are fairly cheap. For instance, this $100 Confederate States of America note, it's under $100. So yeah, you can definitely add some of the notes into your collection. That is number, what did I say? 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Number 7, we're going to go with notes representing hyperinflation. Here's the most famous one, the $100 trillion note from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. $100 trillion. If you write it out, that's what 100 trillion looks like. Their safety feature on this is showing half of the one and then half of each zero all the way across. And when you hold it to the light, it all fills in to make it full. But anyway, the $100 trillion note, when people talk about hyperinflation, this is what they are talking about. Notes that just have ridiculous numbers and still aren't really worth that much. This one here is the, what is this? It is supposed to be the 10 million billion pengo from Hungary. So you can see it's 10 million, but the B represents billions. So you have 10 million and then add a billion to that. I thought, everybody says this one is the highest denomination, but 10 million billions is much bigger than 100 trillion. And even this is not the highest denomination. This is the highest denomination ever printed, which would be 100 million billion. So there's 100 million, and then put 9 more zeros after it. That is the number you're talking as far as denominations. 9 more zeros, 3 more zeros after this would make this 100 trillion. No, 3 more zeros would make this 100, what would that be, 100 billion. 6 more zeros would make it 100 trillion. So 9 more zeros, you're talking 100 quadrillion. Yeah, it's a lot of money in my hand right now. Anyway, those are examples of hyperinflation notes. Fun notes to collect just to show what can happen if inflation gets out of control. A lot of people in this country are talking about out of control inflation. Yet when you compare the going rate of our money to many, many, many other countries, we have use for $1. I don't know what 1 yen converts to in dollars. I don't know what any of the other currencies. I don't know what 1 ruble, how that confers to $1. But yeah, you can still buy stuff for $1 in America. There are stores dedicated to that. Dollar General, for example. So yeah, people love to use scare tactics about inflation. Realistically, our money's fine. It's a great talking point. It's a great bullet point, but it's fine. We're doing fine. All right, let's see. Next up, what do I got? Number 8. Number 8, I have notes from World War II. Now, I'm not talking about emergency currency. I'm talking about actual notes from around the world during World War II. There's Italy and France. There's 10 pesos from the Japanese government. Yeah, there was all kinds of notes put out during World War II as countries would get taken over and invaded. There still had to be money being spent. So these are the different notes that you're going to see. This is one of the victory series from the Philippines. It says victory on the back because this is when the Philippines took over again. Just, yeah, so many different notes that you can find from World War II. This could be an entire collection in and of itself. I just have, like I said, the Philippines and a couple Japanese government notes, as well as these two from Europe. So yeah, you can find a lot of different notes from World War II. And if that's your thing, that is definitely one way to go. Number 9. Number 9, we're going to go with different types of seals. Okay. Different types of seals on notes. For instance, we have the standard green seal. Here's a blue seal on a silver certificate. We've got a red seal on a legal tender with the spikes on it. Then you have a legal tender without spikes. Then you have a giant red seal like this with massive spikes. The different arrangements of seals, the different colors for seals, just another way that you could differentiate. So trying to put together a collection showing all the different seals, even stuff like this seal here, when it first started, didn't have the pinpoints on the outside, and it was slightly larger. Those from the 1928, 1934 series, if I recall. So yeah, lots of interesting ways just looking at the seals. That is yet another way to go. And finally, number 10. This shouldn't be a surprise because I've said it in every one of these videos. Collect what you like. If there is a note that you are fascinated by, there's no rhyme or reason why you would have to pick up one or more of any different things. For instance, I'm always fascinated with $3 bills, so I collect $3 bills. I was fascinated by seeing this note because to me that looks like Paul Sorvino. Here's a note that they reused old notes. It's got part of a $3 bill, part of a $5 bill to make this $5 bill. What is that, a $13 bill? To me, that's interesting. Civil War note with the green overprint. I know how rare these are, and this is called a Slayer note. I mean, that's pretty cool. And a $5 note from 1862. I mean, the first note printed was a $5 legal tender like this because we already had the $1 notes in circulation, so they printed 5s right away. I mean, so, and then error notes. Here's an error note where they just completely forgot to print the back. Any type of note that catches your eye, if it's got a cool story, a cool picture, a cool idea, just a cool production, whatever the case is, you are fine collecting anything you like. So collect what you like. That is what makes your collection. All right, guys, that concludes my 40 ideas for how to collect, what to collect, where to collect. If you learn anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. I love reading all your comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.